Look at this timeline of Chinese history. While we often think of history in the West as a straight line marching toward progress, this animated timeline shows a cycle. For over 4,000 years, China pulses, expanding and contracting, moving from unity to division and back again. It behaves almost like a long, steady breath. The inhale of this cycle usually begins in complete fracture. Millennia ago, there were no kings or vast cities. People lived simply, trying to survive in isolated farming clans scattered along the soft earth of the Yellow River. Over generations, those scattered families formed the Shang Dynasty. They built cities from stone and cast intricate, highly advanced bronze vessels. They also carved early writing into animal bones. This shared communication laid the roots of a common culture. But stability rarely lasts. The land eventually shattered into rival kingdoms fighting for absolute survival. Historians call this the Warring States period, a dark era where villages were destroyed and the country bled. Out of that chaos emerged a 13-year-old boy named Ying Zhang. He spent years methodically conquering every competing kingdom. Winning the wars, he declared himself Qin Shi Huang, the first emperor, and forced everyone to use a single system of writing and money. He did not negotiate a peace treaty. He dragged the warring kingdoms together through uncompromising absolute will, drawing the first unified map of China by force. Despite wielding absolute control over millions, Qin Shi Huang was deeply afraid. He refused to allow the word death spoken inside his palace, constantly sending fleets across the ocean to find medicines to keep himself alive forever. When he realized he could not escape mortality, he commanded his workers to build a complete underground world to protect his tomb in the afterlife. They crafted thousands of individual clay soldiers, horses, and chariots by hand. This vast terracotta army stood hidden beneath the earth for more than 2,000 years, eventually collapsing and fracturing under the weight of time. Even an immortal clay army could not save his legacy. Qin Shi Huang died suddenly while traveling, and within a few short years, his unified empire shattered, throwing the land right back into chaos. His dynasty collapsed almost instantly because a structure held together exclusively by fear and brute force is remarkably fragile. The moment the strong man disappears, the entire system breaks. After the dust settled, a low-level village official named Liu Bang stepped into the power vacuum. He understood human nature, built key alliances, and defeated his rivals to found the Han Dynasty with a much softer hand. He lowered taxes, listened to scholars, and gave the land time to recover. This was a massive golden exhale for the empire, a time when art and music flourished and the population thrived. The government built a vast network of roads connecting their cities to the west. Merchants carried silk, spices, and porcelain across this Silk Road, exchanging religions, languages, and new ideas with distant lands. This openness peaked centuries later during the Tang Dynasty. Their capital city, Chang'an, swelled to over 1 million people, drawing workers, painters, and scholars from all over Asia to create the largest, most cosmopolitan metropolis on Earth. China's longest-lasting and most successful eras were not forged by isolated tyrants. They were built by leaders who opened their borders, respected learning, and allowed culture to flow freely. History, however, keeps moving. The Golden Age ended with a terrible force sweeping down from the northern grasslands. The Mongols had arrived on fast horses with highly organized, relentless armies. Genghis Khan and his grandson Kublai Khan waged decades of war until they completely conquered the fractured Chinese forces. They established the Yuan dynasty, marking the first time a foreign power entirely controlled the land. Yet the civilization they inherited was incredibly advanced. When the Italian traveler Marco Polo visited the Yuan court, he observed systems of wealth and organization so complex that people back in Europe assumed he was making it all up. Decades later, disease and famine weakened the Mongol rulers. A beggar who had spent time as a wandering monk, Zhu Yuanzhang, joined a massive rebellion, eventually driving the Mongols out and founding the Ming dynasty. The new Ming emperors were deeply suspicious of the outside world. Having seen their land conquered, they focused obsessively on border protection. Millions of workers, soldiers, and prisoners spent generations hauling stone across deserts and mountain ridges to build a massive, continuous fortification along the northern border. We know it today as the Great Wall of China. It served as a desperate psychological declaration that the empire intended to survive forever. Despite the massive walls, the Ming eventually collapsed, replaced by the Qing dynasty. The Qing ruled a vast empire for centuries until the outside world began to rapidly industrialize. European powers arrived with heavy weaponry, demanding territory and trade rights. They forced unequal treaties, triggered the devastating Opium Wars, and internal rebellions left millions dead as corruption hollowed out the old system. The final blow came in 1912. A young boy named Puyi was forced from the throne, permanently ending thousands of years of imperial rule. The empire was gone. China entered a long, painful transition filled with war and revolution, struggling for decades to find its footing in the modern world. The fall of the last emperor did not mean the death of the civilization. The history of this land shows that from total collapse, the people always find a way to rebuild. Supreme rulers fall and massive walls turn to dust. A civilization survives because its people possess the enduring ability to learn, adapt, and begin again.